Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Nimi Marcel with us. A brief about Dr. Nimi Marcel. She has done bachelor's in life sciences and master's in microbiology from Bangalore University. Then she joined NCBS for her PhD research work and got the affiliated degree from Manipal University. She did a short postdoc at NCBS and then joined Tata Institute for Genetics and Society as a research scientist. And currently, she is a staff research associate at UCST. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Dr. Nimi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raja, for this opportunity.
So, we always start our conversation that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Okay, that's a good starting point. For me, the journey has been quite weird, probably, maybe very distinct from other people who have actually chosen to do research. I just wanted to do something different than doing engineering or doctor, because that's what my whole family line is about. So I just wanted to do something different. And when I was graduating from my 12th grade, we had this whole upswing of biotech, microbiology as a new field of study that was coming up, and me being placed in Bangalore, which had IASC very close by, had all these talks open for high schoolers and things like that. So my mother encouraged me actually to go for these talks, and although nothing really sunk in, but it all looked very cool and nice, and that's why I said, okay, I should probably choose a career which is different from being a doctor or an engineer. And my parents really helped me, allowed me to choose a path that I always interested, which was not a professional path that either of them had any idea about. So when I started applying, I started looking at colleges which were offering, and Mount Carmel was one very prestigious college which started off this microbiology program in the college, so under Bangalore University, and it was the first non-funded program that they had started, and it so happened that the fee was higher for that program from any other. So, but then because my dad was quite cooperative, we went into that, and that really triggered the research idea in me, because they didn't have any prescribed textbooks.
Wow.
Okay, at that time, because microbiology was a new subject. So as you know, other subjects have textbooks, and this program, because it was new, there was no prescribed textbooks. So our teachers really literally asked us, go to the library, sit down, make notes for this topic, pull out journals, pull out whatever books you can find, and make, we actually, it started from there. To study itself, we had to go through research. And please remember, when I did my bachelor's, there was no internet available. It was all library, going to the library, sitting there and pulling out stuff. So yeah, that's when I wanted to do my research. And after my master's, I obviously after BSc, I had to do my master's. And after master's, I got a job in AstraZeneca Research Center, um, which was quite very, very encouraging and very enriching environment, because it's a research based for identifying new drugs for mycobacterium, which is the causative of tuberculosis. And it gave a good sense of how research can be applied for translational medicine. So my journey was not also well planned that I wanted to go into research and things like that, but then it just went through and got in. And when I reached AstraZeneca, I realized that just having an MSc won't take you anywhere because you know nothing about research. And that's why my colleagues and my team leader encouraged me that I should go do a PhD and, get your PhD done. It's a life-changing experience, and it is one. Yeah, so that's my journey in short. Yeah.
And PhD, as you said, it is life-changing. It does not just change your name by putting doctor, but it changes you as a person forever.
Of course, I think it's an experience. If you can endure it, it
Yeah.
is awesome. You can live your life anywhere. That's an experience. Yeah.
So to start with, we'll say that, okay, being the first passion for research in the generation, where you have doctors and engineers.
Right.
And that's probably one of the reasons, as you mentioned, that the path nobody has taken, you were like, okay, now I want to take this.
Yes.
Let's talk this conversation with how important or different it was for you to think to join PhD after a job when you are already doing a job. It like so
Right.
the salary is already inflowing.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the points which comes very now and then often that the opportunities in India after
Mhm.
masters, and then people don't get opportunities even after PhD.
Correct. Yes.
So, what was your driving force that you gave up on a career which is already in there in the industry,
Hmm.
and there are not many PhDs, so they
Yeah.
still prefer that, okay, masters, it is good because they have to pay less, and then still they can do after a training everything what a PhD can do.
Exactly. So that's where probably as a person, it depends on what your requirement is because after it was a very difficult decision, in fact, because by the time I decided to leave industry to join PhD, I was married and I had a kid. So it was really, really a very big decision for as a woman to get into PhD because I knew the demands of a PhD would be especially you give up your weekends, which is not the case in industry, right? So, but what the driving factor mainly was is that you are only ending up as a pair of hand when you are only a master's, when you work. So in an industry, especially in terms of drug discovery or any pharma company, it is a pipeline. And then when you as a team itself is just a part of this discovery pipeline, for example. And there you are doing a set of experiments which repeatedly say, I was doing screening for drugs which were inhibitory for MTB. Okay, but there are, so I was working in with MTB, which is kind of a very rare kind of a experience that you can gain also. Even today, there is no good labs which can work on TB after AstraZeneca shut down. So, but you have your data, you want to present it, you have a view that you think could be applicable, but you are not given an opportunity to present that in your viewpoint because you're not the team leader yet. And who becomes the team leader are the people who have actually had experience driving projects. So when you are only doing a part of a big pipeline, you are not getting the holistic experience of driving a project. And that you will get only from doing a PhD, right? So in a PhD is that one question that you answer, but you are doing everything around that to get to the answer or a solution to it.
I think
Yeah.
this is the perfect way to describe it. And now I would like to tell this to the audience that anyone of you who's in the dilemma that should they join the industry or the PhD, I think Dr. Nimi has just crystalled it out for you guys. So if you are more passionate about starting from the problem and driving it to the solution, probably PhD is for you. You should do that. If you are the one who's not bored by monotony, because as Dr. Nimi said, you are probably going to do the same thing for years without having a lot of intellectual contribution into that because of the starting position or wherever you are. And as also she said that if you are the part of a bigger picture, you are probably creating a pipeline which might end up being in translation or in market in a couple of years or probably take more. So you have to think it through that what is your driving force. As Dr. Nimi mentioned, wanted, she was ready to give up on the salary, on the established job, and still to start everything all over, which she already did by choosing becoming a researcher. So most of the medical students, like 12th students, who have the biology, want to do become a doctor. And she was like, no, I just want to do something else. Now giving up on your weekends on the job, joining a PhD, full-fledged,
Yeah.
Now I would like to know your thoughts about women in STEM.
So yeah, that's a very good point that I would like to bring up because there are many women I know who have to spare time for their family, particularly married women in India who have to, who have planned to start a family, would have to take a break. and things like that. So I find that most of the women who want to do PhD are, discouraged by this. But although I would say that this opportunity in India for women researchers are very high now. I realized that after I joined in, as you can see that I have a gap in my master's and then joining the PhD about 5 years. By the time I am also aging, right? So there are several fellowships which I couldn't apply for because there was an age bar. But what I realized is that there are, especially for women, there is a wave for age out about 5 to 7 years, and it depends on which fellowship you're applying for. And also recently after I graduated, also I saw that there are no more DBT programs which allows women to come back into their research career. So that's called, I don't know the name exactly now, but there is for people who have had a break, and particularly for women. So it's prioritized for women to, there are fellowships available to, come back after you have taken care of your parents or taken care of your children or whatever the legitimate reason would have been. And so that's one point that I want to, bring up here, because even I was in a stage where I thought, should I have to start my PhD, I already have a kid, how will I manage all this? So two aspects. One is that there are fellowships available for women who want to come back to research. And second is, if you have a family support to do this, and it's inevitable, you need a family support to do this after you have had a break or whatever, please go for it. Don't restrict your passion because you have personal requirements and liabilities. It'll all go through if you have family support, and there's definitely financial support. So that is one thing that everybody who is a woman trying to look for a research opportunity should um, look out for. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as you just started this, that nothing should stop you. So
Mhm.
even if the path was not taken by anyone else, nothing can stop you just because you determined, you are focused as a researcher. So you will navigate
Right.
all it through. So
Yes.
this is for all the audience, the women in STEM who are listening to this. That Dr. Nimi just mentioned that there are opportunities. Probably you have to look a little bit more which suits your criteria, because for one fellowship it might be different, but for other it might be, but you will get something where you can get funded position, and you can actually fly in the air using your own wings, not to look in for the project positions or something. If you can have your own funding positions, and which are coming a little bit more in India now, because they want you all back to come and do research, because you are always way more than anyone else. So now I would like to know the role of the support system. You briefly touched about the your supporting parents starting from the first, like even it is going for the college, which is not funded
Right.
program, and
Yeah.
then giving up on the job and then joining the PhD. And then we will talk about this first, and then we'll go to the next question.
Okay, so there is a big issue, right? Because when you are the earning member in the family, right? So you have to be thinking about your financial stake. But from I was fortunate that from starting from my parents, from my master's, which I said was not government funded, so the fee was considerably higher. But then my parents were like in a position to provide that. But I think even if my parents were not, there are opportunities from banks which support loans for students who are want to take up a loan. So that shouldn't be a matter, I think. But the main decision point for me was after I was married, right? We are settling, we marry as two earning members. We invest in a house and we want to start a family. At that point is when it comes to, actually, to be very open, at that point, I went into my PhD with 1/4 of the salary. It was not even a salary, it was just a stipend, which paid me enough to go drive from my house to the institute. Just the fuel was charged. And I had to keep an extra person to take care of my kids. So expenses were much higher than I think. So these are all factors one should think about. But my husband was very supportive. He said, this is what you wanted to do all this your life. So go ahead, do it. It's not a problem. We can manage. So that kind of a support is probably a lot needed. But my situation might be specific. Other people may not have a family to support, but there are women who think that they want to start a family. And then it was more to, bring out that aspect. So if you are financially sound, because PhD doesn't pay. In India, it doesn't pay at all, right? But I think the situation now is a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
JRF has increased considerably, but I was going for a pay of, I think, 5,000 rupees when
Mm-hmm.
I started my PhD. It was only that much. So it was barely something that could support you, and like if you are an earning member. So that's a
Yeah.
factor people have to keep in mind.
Yes.
And don't try to be a superhero and give up everything and go. No,
No,
life has to be supported.
like by God's grace, now things has changed. Now it is like yes, stipend has moved a lot, as
Mhm.
so as the inflation also. But now
Right.
like
Yeah.
a considerable amount. I'm not sure if this the stipend is enough just to support the entire family, or it is good enough for two or three people. But yes,
Yeah.
as you bring out this important point that prioritize,
Yeah.
every person have their own priorities. You should know your priorities, that what is your priority. Your research might be first of your priority, but if you have financial commitments which cannot be fulfilled by this, you can always look into longer version, in like after 5 years, what are your goals, where you think you can uh, pay off your loans, or if you are borrowing it from someone, you can actually give it to back to them. Because at the end of the day, you should be happy about what you are doing. And if you are not happy today, at least you have this hope and faith that tomorrow you will be happy. It is just the struggle, the phase which you are going to get over with. So never leave things unexplored. Just don't jump into this just because you are passionate enough, because sometimes it just goes really fast. So now we will talk about the struggles during the PhD life. How was that?
Okay, that I think that goes unsaid that PhD is a struggle, uh, but we come in with a lot of motivation, with a lot of energy to get your question answered, you get your experiments done, you're ready to come on your weekends, come and sacrifice everything, spend late nights, but you will not get the results that you want. It will be frustrating. It's going to take a lot more commitment than you really think you need to. You will have days where you will be walking into, I mean, it has happened to me. I have walked into NCBS many months together thinking, why am I even coming here? What am I going to do? My experiments are not working, my question is not reasonable. Yeah, but then you have your mentor. If So that's when it's important to have a good research and background check done on your mentor with whom you're going to be doing your PhD, because that's very important. If the mentor can't drive you, there's no one else who can actually motivate you to stick on and go on there. But having said that, mentors can be very, very demanding. They can you will have to, play around, and it's a lot of I think it's more of a teamwork in the lab that you will have the situation with other students. Students can support you, help you, talk you through this. So it is a struggle. And especially me being, so having said all that, okay, but if you enjoy doing research, if you enjoy doing experiments, be prepared to fail. Okay, failure is the only thing which will teach you where you are. In fact, I don't think I actually started off on my project until the second or third year into my PhD. I was still completing papers for people who have already left the lab. That's generally what happens. So and don't be averse from doing that, because you get publications. Right? If you contribute to anybody's research, you get publications, which is a track record, which will definitely benefit you in future for sure. That is absolutely. So these frustrations will be there. Okay, my project has not started, I'm not working on it, I'm working on other people's stuff. But that is a learning that I got much later, that contributing to other people's work, although you're not the first author, you are an author on the paper, and that goes into the record for good. So I think in the third year or fourth year is when actually my project started getting more importance. My PI started attending to that and started showing, okay, these are the results we are getting, started actually discussing my work, which will actually go into my thesis. Till then, it was like, okay, finishing up other people's, okay, let's just get this paper out of the way and then we will talk about your project. So, the struggle then comes in that you are already a person who has left a job, have a kid, and then you are doing your PhD. 3 years in, you have no way into finishing your course yet, and already people are asking you, when are you going to be done with your PhD, right? So this is a question, irrespective of if you have a family commitment or not, you will be asked, okay, you're three years in, when are you finishing? When are you finishing? So be deaf to that. You will finish eventually. But yeah, that is the biggest challenge that one has to go through, that it takes time. It takes time. It will definitely be not a 3 year, not a 4 year. It will be a full-fledged 5 year if you're doing in India or in US. That much I know. I don't know about other countries, don't have so much experience. But that would be an extremely learning experience for you. So that's one major struggle of, timing when the PhD will be completed. So there is no end time to that. Some people are very comfortable with it. So I know people in NCBS who have stayed for 10 years as a grad student and not graduated because they're so happy, just there, doing your own job. The PIs are okay, there's somebody is there, but that's not a good scenario. So you have to strike a balance. Don't try to get it done in 3 years. Don't get elongated for 10 years. And the second hurdle, I think maybe as a woman, and because I already had a kid, I had to be very strict with the time that I spent in the lab. That I used to come early and I used to leave early. So my PI has never had kept a PhD student who was married or had a kid, and she never liked people leaving early and coming. Coming early is not a problem for her, but leaving early, you should be in the lab till I leave. That was the idea. People couldn't just walk off in front of her, when she's still in the office. So that was a bit of a out of the normal that was happening in the lab. But I had no choice. My nanny would leave at 6, and if I don't go back there, who will take care of my kid? So, but what I showed my PI was that even if I spend a small amount of time, I'll be efficient. I'll be able to finish work. So there is no chai break. There's no 2 hour lunch break. There's no afternoon coffee break. Yes, it does not happen with me. So very little uh, time that I spent, even if not little, it's a full day, but within 8:30 to 5 or 6, I had to stay. And I used to finish my work. Everything that needs to be done would be completed as required. And I did not have a problem coming on weekends. That also added to the fact. Then slowly she got used to that, and she accepted the whole thing as being not out of the normal. Yeah, so
No, but
that
I
was
think,
another struggle that I had.
but these are the things which I would like to say to all the researchers, especially now because we are discussing the PhD life, that this is normal, which Dr. Nimi said in India specifically. But what we lose here is the time organization. Just because we can spend the whole day, the night in the lab doesn't mean that we have to. Because these are the things which actually gives you a lot of trouble post your PhD, which we will be switching in discussion with Dr. Nimi now. So the things which you should always do as a PhD student, that to start with, just do a very thorough background check on the advisor or the supervisor you are going to the lab, the amount of publication they have, how is the teamwork in there, you know the organization also is very important when you join it. So you have to manage your time. It is your choice, you decide your working hours, and that is the beauty of research, which I personally enjoyed throughout my life, enjoying right now also. But that is what you have to start working on, and it helps you being organizing not only about time, about your experiments. And then just because you have kept this time limit, you are a little bit more thorough in reading protocols, following them, because now you know that where you are going to take the breaks. Now, let's talk about the balancing also. Like, okay, you like your PhD, but that doesn't mean that you are going to be a PhD student, a graduate student for rest of your life. Absolutely no. You should always keep a timeline also, that this is the time which I'm going to give. And I would suggest that you should go by chapter wise. The If you have three objectives in your thesis, you should be working on that way. It's like, okay, this is the time which I'm allocating for this, and I'll just move on, because sometimes not all the hypotheses work the way we want. So you always have to be contributing to the lab. And as we said, that research is the teamwork. So you are contributing to someone else's work, and that's how you are also getting help from their work. Now let's talk about the work culture. So Dr. Nimi, you did PhD in India in one of the most reputous place to start with. Then you moved to United States of America. So how did you find the work culture had helped you? Because you were very organized when you were in India. And then when you moved there, so you might have seen people struggling like your peers, and you were one of the most confident, like, okay, I have done this for my a lot of my life, so I can do that.
Yeah, so I would like to thank my mentor for that aspect because she was very rigorous on and I knowing that you know your protocols thoroughly. You have to so to give you an example, our labs, my PhD labs, bread and butter was Western blot. So if anybody has to train in Western blotting there, I mean anybody who joins the lab has to train in Western blot. So the purpose is you will run your blot gel running using all the buffers that are there in the lab, right? And you will use it and you'll get a successful uh, immunoblot or whatever. But then the next step is that once you know how to do it, you will make all the buffers yourself and make sure it works and make sure it works for others. It was very rigorous training in terms of techniques. So that's why that is also I had a lot of work to do with mouse in my PhD. That also, and in NCBS, it was the training was really good. I had confocal imaging and flow cytometry for also the training for that at NCBS. Particularly, I should claim that their core facility is really good. So nobody can become a self-user unless you know the basics and the what is the fluidics, optics, everything about flow or imaging has to be, you have to have a written test and you have a viva. So that's how you become a user. So you have all this background already set. When you're doing a PhD, it sounds so frustrating to spend time on learning with anything that you're not going to be managing. You're just going to use the flow. You're just going to run the sample there. And no, why do I need to know this background? But that really helped me when I came here for my postdoc. So because knowing all this basics so thoroughly, it was a smooth transition for me in terms of techniques. Nobody had to teach me to do techniques here. Um, but what I felt, but what would be the positive here is that there is a lot of freedom of thought. You can do your experiments, you can test it out, you can you can waste a few reagents, but you can explore, which was not the case, probably because of the kind of lab that I was in. But in general, I think it's quite mentor driven in India, where you have a set of experiments. They don't want to explore a lot. They are scared of failures. This will not take you there. And I wouldn't blame the mentors for that because their funding is also limited there, right? So in those terms, I think in when I came to US as a postdoc, I had a lot of freedom to explore, to learn. So that got me to learn things which was not my comfort zone. Molecular biology, cloning, CRISPR, all this was so new to me. But since I had the opportunity to, just go in and try out many things, that gave me a good exposure to new techniques, and I was ready to make a fool of myself. And that's okay here. In US, it's okay. If you don't know something, it's fine. But I think that's the difference. There are some prerequisites in India when you say, okay, you've done this, you're supposed to know this. If you don't know, it's not good. But that work culture is what is different here, which I find very positive in US, is that it's okay if you don't know, it's okay, you can learn it. Nobody, judges you because you don't know something. So that gave a lot of boost to my skill set, which was very useful for me for so many since the last 6 years that I've been working here. But then that is also based off of the training that I got in my PhD. So that's the other thing. PhD is, if you can do it, you get your training and your skill set very strong, you can build on it in your postdoc or any other post PhD careers that you choose for. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of those important things which I personally hated, but you brought it so well that it is very important to know all the basic concepts of the experiments you are doing, all the operations of the machine you are operating. Because we had so many researchers talking about that I have done this, I have used flow. But if you start talking, as Dr. Nimi mentioned, the fluidics of it, the technology, all the microscopy, what all is involved in this, if you know that, you know your machine. That's what they say, that if you are a mechanic and if you don't know your machine, you are not even a mechanic. That's what we will say, that if you are a researcher, you are using any machine, and if you don't know how to operate it, or a little bit of troubleshooting, it's not like you have to be a trained engineer to operate that.
Mhm.
Never do that. Okay. So it is very important to read those manuals, because sometimes it is so simple that we always go for, okay, if something is not working, let's restart it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But knowing the basic concept of your experiment is very important. Most of us know the basic concepts, but still, some if you, after a period of training, as Dr. Nimi said, that in India it is just said that, okay, oh, you have done PhD in this, you should know this. You might not know this, but always take this in your head, that there will be people who will be questioning you. It is you who decide that how much weightage you are giving it to them, so that you start questioning your confidence, or take it opposite, that you say that, okay, I know things which I know, there is the scope that I want to learn. And that's why it is always a training, it is lifetime learning. You learn every day. So now, a little bit question about when you were trying to apply for United States. Like a
Mhm.
lot of Indian researchers, what have been seen these days, that they are moving outside India.
Mhm.
What were based on your trainings, how your PhD helped to, you know, narrate to a position where was not very much in not the same kind of work you were doing, but you were transitioning to something else.
Um, yeah, so actually, when you apply for outside India, they would see even a little bit of change in your field of research is not a big issue when you are transitioning, because that's the time you will actually transition. But basically, as you can see from my CV, I have basically done all my cell biology as my basic training. Even my PhD is in cell biology and signaling. But my model system was immune cells. So I did not know so much immunology, but I knew how I had to use mice, I had to isolate cells. So primary immune cells is what I was dealing with, and the signaling in those cells is what I was my project was and my interest. But having that much background helped me to transition into immunology, hardcore immunology in my postdoc, because I was having, so in PhD, maybe it's specific for immunology. I'll just focus on that. I'm not in a full confidence to expand that for every field. In immunology, you need, when you want to do in a field of immunology postdoc, they will expect you to have a little bit of mouse work, having the experience in isolating primary cells, maybe human blood or mouse spleens and lymphocytes. So these skills I already had. I had that as in my bucket list. So It was there, it was listed. So it was easy to probe into immunology lab, asking them for postdoc positions. So it was easy for me to do that because I had a little bit of background. So what I wanted to emphasize is, if there is, by the end, the last 2 years or of your PhD, you feel that you want to go to a specific field, which is a little different from what your PhD program is running on, try to get that experience. Do a small stint in some other lab in collaboration, go and visit. There are travel opportunities provided, the travel funds that are available. Go there and get a little bit of experience, do small courses. I don't know about other institutes, but in NCBS, they do run I think 3 weeks or 3 months courses on microscopy. If that's not been not done in your PhD, that's something maybe you want to add to your skill list. And then you go and do a course in that. You have courses which allow you to train on, say, trying to make embryonic fibroblasts. So there are small courses which are available, which has not been in your PhD, but that's the field you want to go into. So try to build your skill sets depending on what is the postdoc that you want to do. So that would open up venues as to where you want to apply if you already have thought about it. But if it's not postdoc that you want to do, you want to apply for a job, a biotech company, then you start looking into what biotech companies are actually you're applying to apply, and what is that their requirements are. Try to build some skills into your CV, which you can list and also talk about it with confidence when you are applying. So that's something you have to, plan a little bit ahead of time before you graduate.
No, I think this is very important message to all the PhD students who are currently about to wrap your thesis or already writing it. So if you have given thought that where you would like to pursue as a postdoc, or you want to take a next career move, which you have not learned, I think what Dr. Nimi has mentioned is very important, that just earn all those skill sets, because you know that they are going to help you, and you might be very busy, and everyone is busy. So this is for all the non-researchers, the parents, the friends, the family, anyone who's listening to this. If somebody's about to submit their thesis, never ask a PhD student that when they will graduate. Never ever ask this question, that when they will graduate, because this is one question which can never be answered until you have submitted it. So either you have not submitted it or you have submitted it. There is no day, nobody can say that they will submit on that day. So never ask that. Things apart, for all the researchers who already had made their mind that what will be the next move after their submission. So in hypothetical world, you should always have offers before your viva or before your submission, because you have networked enough, you have all the skill set which it take, you have done your groundwork, and everything is ready. But in the real world, what happens is everyone is so stressed about the submission of the thesis that they don't take time to already build those relations which they should have done. So it starts after submission. And there is always sometimes like from 3 months to 6 months, this period when you have submitted your thesis. So now you are either finishing your paper, or then that's when you start your applications. So what Dr. Nimi has said, I think is very helpful for all of you whosoever want a little bit change or a complete change of the field with the skill set you can learn. So now, keeping the time limit in question, one thing which if you have to say to the PhD students who are about to submit their thesis, only one thing, what they should do.
I mean, one most important thing is that your thesis is important, but what you do afterwards is more critical. So keep your mind frame peaceful, calm. Life is not ending here. There is more to this. So, and whatever hard work you have given will get paid off. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I think I cannot say it better than this. So it is just the start. All the researchers, if you want to contact Dr. Nimi. You can write it to her. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrity, please feel free to write it to us, and then we will put you in touch with them. There is this mentorship program also. If you want to get mentored by any of our researcher celebrity, we offer that also. So one thing which we want to make sure that is you get what you want. If you enjoy the research, it is for you. We will try to make it happen how you can enjoy your research. So with this, we'll say keep doing your research, enjoy it, do whatever makes you happy. And to Dr. Nimi, will say thank you very much for sharing the journey and motivating new generation of researchers.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Good luck to everyone out there.